What up, everybody? Welcome to the IAG Thursday Thing. This thing we do every Thursday, and we still haven't missed one. We've been going hard. I'm pretty excited about it because I really like doing these. How about you, Jordan? You like doing these?
Yeah, no, it's fun.
I like doing these. So I think we do a decent service to the community with this, and honestly, I think it's grown into its own strange thing, and it's a lot of fun. I think we get some of the same feedback from the audience, and I like that. I love when the audience gives us comments, things like that, especially on Spotify. Guys, Spotify, please leave comments on Spotify. I'm going to put that right up the front. I got a little mini goal going for this quarter. I would like to increase Spotify followers, but the best way to do that is you have to comment and you need to share the Spotify link. So do us a solid. Share the Spotify link. Means a lot. Jordan, it's just you and I today. So
I see that. And, Warranty was busy with, IRL job stuff. Ugh.
Yeah, he's doing adult things, so we're going to do fun things without him.
I can't believe he just didn't tell his new boss that, hey, we have a podcast that's obviously more important.
So normally we're joined by Warranty, but Warranty is doing adult things. But we are joined this week, as usual, by executive producer Jordan, who's going to fill in for Warranty also. Jordan, what have you been up to other than gutting my BRZ?
Nothing, just getting prepping for Road Atlanta between, actually practicing on the sim and or, working on Dolly. It's really all I've been doing this past week or so.
So when we refer to Dolly, that is my BRZ. That is the name of the BRZ. Again, I don't name my vehicles. Other people do. Ray named it Dolly. Dolly is a 2013 BRZ with basically all the NA mods you can do that make any sort of sense, including a absurdly expensive Ace header and a ton of suspension mods. So it's a set of Fortunato 510s and basically the entire SPL catalog thrown at it. I purchased that a while ago as my kind of track rat trainer, and it is done flawlessly for that. But Jordan needed a vehicle.
I did need a vehicle this year. My budget for my car just wasn't happening at all this year. So I'm super gracious that you're lending me Dolly for this season.
Yeah.
But while I was taking some of the interior, the amount of golf tees I found under the seats and floorboards, hysterical. Probably 30 to 50 different golf tees in there.
I think the guy I bought it from, Greg, sometimes he listens to this show. I think he was a big golfer.
Okay.
I had never had any of the seats or anything out, and I have never been golfing with that car.
There was an absurd amount of golf tees.
Okay, well, the more you know. Probably saved 20 pounds in golf tees.
Probably, actually.
So, also want to throw a quick shout out to Randy for making the thumbnail, and he does a lot behind the scenes helping us figure out what we want to do with this show and what we don't. He helps us out on YouTube and does a lot of weird background stuff for us. So thanks, Randy. This week, I got to be real. Next week is Road Atlanta, and last week I was on vacation, and it was awesome. I feel much better than I did the week before. When we recorded, well, it was like 2 weeks ago when we recorded last time. I'm in a much better mental state. I needed a vacation pretty bad. I got to unplug, but I didn't really have a chance to plan too much. I'm not mentally back from vacation. Probably won't be until after Road Atlanta. So I figured, what a better time than now to do an Ask Dewey, which we haven't done in a while. Ask Deweys are fun because it's basically just I post up a thread in the IAG Insider Subaru Lounge on Facebook, and a bunch of people ask questions, and the Discord where we record this live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Feel free to join because we do record this live. The chat helps us out. So we got a whole bunch of questions from the chat. We got some questions from Facebook. We're going to answer them the best we can. And a lot of times we get fairly deep into stuff. Some of this is just hardcore opinion. Some of it is, some of it's just, it's just a good time. Some of it's haha. Some of it's about IAG. Some of it's about Subaru stuff in general. It's all over the place. So I always start with the Insider Subaru Lounge Facebook stuff. So we're just going to kick it off right from there. So
you need a vacation from your vacation,
dude. Man. I'm starting to come back from it. Just now starting to come back. I can
imagine. But how was your first cruise?
Oh, yeah. So anybody who's asking about the vacation, we'll just start with that here real quick. We went on a cruise. That was the first cruise I've ever been on. We were on Icon of the Seas. It was a Royal Caribbean cruise. The ship is bonkers huge. And it was great.
It's the biggest ship.
I didn't do anything. It was awesome. We did go down to St. Kitts. That was kind of lame. But St. Thomas, which is a U.S. Virgin Island, I had a really crazy experience there because we rented some Jeeps. And I'd never been to the Virgin Islands before. And here's what I found out. We picked up the Virgin Islands from, I think, the Dutch in the early 1900s. Okay. They became a U.S. territory at that point. But up until that point, they had already kind of established they drive on the left-hand side. Okay. But since they're a U.S. territory, and due to U.S. importation laws and all sorts of stuff, they remain driving on the left-hand side. Why, I don't know. But all their vehicles are U.S. vehicles, so they're also left-hand drive. So you're driving on the left-hand side with a left-hand drive vehicle. I have no other way of putting this.
Backwards on ass backwards. Jeez.
It is a mind fuck to try to drive around this place. And it was, I felt like I was doing 4-dimensional math every time I had to turn a corner. And what's really stupid is it is very standard to park in a way where you just open your door right into traffic. It's crazy. Like, so when I become president in the future, my very first act as president, just so everybody's aware, is I'm fixing the U.S. Virgin Islands. We're going to have a vote within the U.S. Virgin Islands of, do you want to switch from right-hand drive to left-hand drive? And if you don't, I'm okay with that. You guys can do your own thing, but we're going to open up a special vehicle environment there to where you can import other vehicles into that area so you can drive on the correct side. You should have a right-hand drive car if you drive on the left side. You just should. So we will fix it. So yeah, if you guys haven't heard yet, in the somewhat distant future, I plan on running for president. It's happening. You're hearing it now. So
he's gonna make Subarus mandatory to drive and nothing else.
God, I hope not. Because all I'll do my whole presidency is have to answer for that. It'll be a long 4 years, and I'll be out right away. But yeah, we will make Subarus great again. That's right. So let's start from the top. Mary Fields, she did not ask the question first, but she is at the top of the list, so we're going to get to her. All-wheel drive tuning. She actually hit me up and asked me this question. I told her you should ask it on the podcast today. And so she went and put it in here. She goes, I want to hear your thoughts on the new VB WRX. So I think Mary's got a VB now, and she's been playing around with it. She wanted to know how much I've driven one, what my overall thoughts were on it. And I even have some more thoughts since the last track day, because I went and drove, I got to drive Buc-ee's on track a little bit, even though it was raining. But it gave me a little bit more insight. So here's my 2 cents on it. I think it's the best daily driver WRX that Subaru's ever built by a long shot. It's super spacious. The chassis is really good. I actually don't mind the interior. I thought it was going to annoy me, but it doesn't. It's very nice for a WRX. It's a nice place to be. It really lands somewhere between a VA WRX and a VA STI. The infotainment system is a little odd, but it doesn't really bug me that much. I'm a little worried that maybe 5-6 years into the future, the screen might have a problem, and that might start to become an issue with using the buttons on the screen for certain things that have nothing to do with like a radio. I'm a little worried about that. We'll see how that works out. But overall, that engine's great. Basic bolt-ons make piles of horsepower. And once you do some minor modifications to it, I think they look pretty good. They're fairly large, but they look good. I've never seen a Subaru gobble 20-inch wheels like that does. It just eats them right up. It makes 20-inch wheels look like a nice set of 17s or 18s on a GD WRX. It's crazy. They're huge.
I didn't realize they were that big.
They're huge. They're giant vehicles.
Yeah, they are.
So, now from a performance standpoint, I think that engine's great. I think it is severely let down by its differentials. I really don't like 5+1 speeds. I've never been a fan of them. They feel like shit. They're not very strong. They're basically, long story short, if I ever own one, my very first modification would be I'm getting a 6-speed. I'm getting a proper STI 6-speed in there. The second that got in there, that would change everything. Okay. The chassis does a very good job in the dry of covering up the fact that it has 2 open differentials and 1 quasi-open differential in the center. But when in the rain, it shows its ass immediately. So a good STI 6-speed with DCCD would go a long way. Something with a good front diff, a good center diff, get yourself a decent rear diff in there. Dynamically, I think that car would be incredible because of how good it is with open differentials. That means it's going to be that much better with good differentials or some form of differential. That would be the first modification. And then I would probably do that. Gearing's going to be really short. So I would want to get the late model gearing or even spec B gearing would be the way to go if I was to build the perfect 6-speed for that. And then basic bolt-ons will get you 400 to the wheels. What more do you need? Honestly, I wouldn't screw with it much past that. One of the things I'd like to see us do in the future is maybe not a big giant power build. The only engine we have currently is the 1000, which is Firelock head gaskets and everything else, and it would be fine, but I think it's a little overkill for most people. I'd really like to see just a rod piston motor for the FA24. So I'd like to see a basic rod piston engine for it, and 400 horsepower would be great, and that thing would be a total tank.
It'd probably be better for the general enthusiast.
Yeah, and I think I understand the reasoning on why we did what we did the way we did, and we'll see what the future brings for us. But I think they're great cars. But I think they're let down a little bit by the WRX-ness. I have no other way of putting it.
That's a very good way to. I mean, there is really no other way to put it. I think it there's definitely great aspects of it, but it just feels like a letdown overall. I don't know. It's weird.
I don't want to call it a letdown because I think the chassis it's good. It's what it feels like is a buildup for something that never happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like, man, this is so good. I can't wait for the STI, but there is no STI.
There is none. Right.
So you need to build that. Now with that stated, 99.999% of people are not me. You will buy a WRX, you will do some basic mods to it, and you will love it. The problem is I have seen the other side. So my standards are significantly higher than most people. I think you'll probably love it. Just because I'm saying these things doesn't mean you should let it completely persuade you from purchasing a new WRX. What I'd like you to do is drive a new WRX and then go drive a VA STI and see which one you like better because they're different experiences. But I got to be real. As a daily, the new WRX is better. It'll get better gas mileage. More than likely, it'll be more reliable. Just got to be real. So that's my 2 cents. I have 2 people who ask very similar questions, so we're gonna tie them together. Okay. Um,
Okay.
David asked, if such a thing could happen, what could change/happen that would push you to move Boogey or the inevitable Boogey 2.0 to a different class or format? Okay, they are kind of different questions. So we're gonna answer this one first, and then we'll answer the other one.
Yeah, just go back to back. Yeah.
They kind of go together. Okay. So what would happen to push me to move Boogey or Boogey 2.0 into a different class or format? A couple of things. One, let's say Grid Life does some drastic rule change and I don't like where it lands. And they've threatened it a couple of times now. Okay, and I'm just not a fan of where it lands. At this point, I don't see them doing it, but let's say they're like, we're going to do a massive rules shakeup. And they chuck me somewhere that I'm not happy with. I may start looking into other things to mess with. That doesn't mean I'd walk away from Grid Life. I would do Grid Life differently. Okay, one of the things I am going to be playing around with my kid is we just picked up a mini to do Sunday Cup. So we might be doing a little bit of Sunday Cup. You know, I might do some odd events that I normally wouldn't do in Boogey anyway. We might show up with them to do Sunday Cup. It's something we might do, we might not. We'll see. Okay. I want to do GLTC. I want to do GLTC and an FA24 swap BRZ. I think it's a very valid option, and I think we could punch pretty high in that class with a vehicle set up correctly. With that, with those bones. So what would I do with Boogey at that point, though? I may knock that down to a 1 or 2 event a year thing. We might. There's been some conversation.
Be crazy. Run both GLTC and Time Attack every event.
It'd be nuts, and the cost would be too much. There's been talk of World Time Attack doing an event here in the States. We might start gearing more towards their rule set and go try to do something pretty big in that. Something I've always wanted to do was Pikes Peak. Maybe tweak the car to be able to run up Pikes Peak. Add whatever safety things they want, move some shit around, yada, 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 and go try to do Pikes Peak.
Super easy to convert that over to hill climb.
Yes, especially Boogey as it sits now.
Super easy.
I've always wanted to do One Lap of America. And I don't think people laugh at me when I say that, but I think Boogey could do One Lap of America and do it well. So, yeah, it's something that I've wanted to do. But I love street mods so much. So, to be perfectly honest, as long as the car is still competitive within street mod, we think we've got a shot at the championship. And we still feel that there's room for us to grow within the rule set, which we think there's still a whole lot of ceiling left. We're going to keep building the car and keep improving on it and keep trying to fight. But if a big rule shakeup happens or something else drastically happens within my life, that would be the kind of thing that would push me out. It would have to take something pretty fundamentally large. Okay. Next thing, Kurt goes, when are you retiring Boogey and what would be the next platform? If you were to get into Grid Life, what class would you run and what car? Well, I just kind of answered that. Long story short, if let's say something awful happens to Boogey, okay? Or it's just not competitive, or they do a rule shakeup and it completely trashes it. You're probably going to see me in GLTC. It'll be GLTC with a FA24 BRZ. That's pretty much exactly where I'd go. And I'm kind of excited. One of the things that excited me about Street Mod is the sandbox at that time to me seemed fairly small. So I'm like, I feel like I can develop within this sandbox. And don't get me wrong, it has limited some of the things we've, you know, it limits the scope to a certain degree. But GLTC would keyhole that by a whole lot more. So then I'm worrying about the little things, not the big things. You know what I mean? So I really think building a competitive GLTC car is probably the next competitive thing, like seriously competitive thing I'm going to be screwing with. Not that we aren't going to, you know, try to do a little something with the Sunday Cup car, but that's literally exactly what I just called it, a little something. Now, if my kid starts getting really into it, you know, and he wants to get a little more competitive with it, we might dig a little deeper into that too. I don't know. Let's see. Is anyone making a Boogeyman mod for Assetto Corsa? I don't know, but if somebody is, I need it. Okay. If anybody knows
Cool.
people who mod Assetto Corsa, how that all works, because I don't. I actually need a Boogey mod, and then Graham needs he needs one for his 11 STI. So we really want to make training tools, and if somebody listens to this and messes around with Assetto Corsa or knows people who do a lot of messing around with Assetto Corsa, I want to give them our gear ratios, weight, you know, exact power. I want dyno charts and everything so we can match it correctly. I would love to do that. And get it super accurate by using, you know, known tracks and data from tracks to get it correct. I would love to do that if anybody wants to help us out. Basically, we can build what I need off of a 22B and him off of a GV STI, I think is what they called the sedan.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
You said it's an 11, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Next one, Sam Hugh Bin, wiring specialist. He does this. This is more of a joke. Why make forged motors when the Type RA short block is good to make 1,000 wheel horsepower? Shut up, Sam. And then he was like, joking. All right. Then he goes on to go, how was the downshift rev match on the H pattern on M-Tron compared to having the heel toe? It's better. It never got in the way. Let me put it to you that way, which means it was probably helping. Every other rev match system I've used has been a pain in the ass. But I don't know if we really spent a lot of time working on it. Because
Dolly has that set up, and it scared me for a second.
Dolly has, yes, Dolly's got, Dolly scares the shit out of me. Now, on Dolly, I don't know if you realize this, you can turn the key on, okay? And I don't remember what we have them set at, but there are a couple of, there's a map selector, so you key on,
oh, yeah.
and then it's the cruise control stalk up and down. You'll see it'll move the numbers on the tack, and that's how it's picking the different maps. So like 1000 RPM is map 1, 2000 RPM is map 2. One of those, right. I don't know what Graham has them set up as because I haven't done it in so long, but one of them is Graham has it set for his map where he put that on there and he borrowed the car and then he never put it back. And I don't know which map is which. So you could probably play around with that a little bit and figure it out.
Yeah, I'll have to. I didn't even know that was on there.
Yeah, that's an Ecutech thing. It's super cool.
Yeah, I'll play around with it. I know the rev match is whatever map it's on now. Rev match is on.
It is on, and so I started using it to try to learn how to use rev match. And honestly, it's goofy because you have to keep hitting the clutch. The clutch is the thing that sets it off. You know what I mean?
I think it's actually set to RPMs. It would only do it at a certain RPM.
Well,
whenever,
it's got to be past a certain RPM for it to arm, but the thing that triggers it is you hitting the clutch.
Oh, yeah.
So my problem with it is let's say I want to go multiple gears. I have to remember to hit the clutch multiple times. When normally
like
I would
come
just
out and do it,
hit the gas multiple times. And that's what fucks me a little bit. So, yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Dylan asks, why you so awkward, bud? Well, let me tell you. I had an awkward upbringing. I moved schools at awkward times. At a very sensitive time in my life when a lot of things were happening. We also moved. And we moved to my rival school from the school I was at in 6th to 7th grade. And my very first teacher, when I walked in the door, was the high school football coach. And he made it very, very clear to all of the 7th graders that I was the enemy and to make sure I didn't have a good time. And I had a pretty rough middle school, and it took me a while to come to terms with I just didn't give a shit. It took me almost to my junior year to like come around. But yeah, I was pretty awkward during that time, and I've always been pretty awkward. But at a certain point, I just realized I don't care. And so, and at that point, I got a lot happier, and my life got a lot better. But I was pretty awkward during that time, and it kind of stuck with me my whole life. So that's why I'm awkward. You guys don't realize it, but I walk around in a total ball of nerves all the time.
Man went into a serious question answer, and I was just going to say something dumb like autism.
Yeah,
a joke.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, I'm that's it. Like, you guys ever wanted to know, I got to be real. I was not a cool kid. Okay, I just wasn't a cool kid.
I would just chalk it up to ADHD, man.
It has a lot to do with it. Very, very ADHD. Diagnosed but not medicated. I don't know if you were around in the 90s like I was, but and even I'm sure when you were going through high school, it's frowned upon to be medicated. You know what I mean? And my parents really didn't want to medicate me, and they were really worried about the stigma it put on me and all that, and I probably should have been medicated.
Meds or pharmaceutical meds or even drugs in general were always frowned upon when I was in school too. Like kind of had that stigma to them. But I was medicated in school as I suffer from chronic migraine. So I was literally on like 12 different medications growing up, just trying to figure out my migraine situation.
That sucks, dude.
Yeah, so I get it to where like people look at you differently or whatever. Something about it. Yeah, it's weird. I was always that one kid that wasn't there.
There's always that one kid.
I was that one kid. Yep. All right, next question.
Austin. Yeah, geez. We went down a hole there.
Yeah, I was saying. Oh yeah, we got off track. Okay,
yeah.
back.
Holy shit. We need to stop that. All right. So,
yep.
How did you get started in Time Attack? Austin Fabian is asking this. What point did you realize you wanted to shove everything into Boogey and make it a track weapon? I got you. For those of you who don't know this story, I didn't even want to go to my first Grid Life event. Graham had to talk me into it, and Graham thought it was just a track day. I was working for a company called TH Motorsports at the time. Okay. Now, I had heard about Grid Life, but I heard it's basically just a track day, and then they have a concert with a bunch of music I don't want to listen to anyway. And I'm like, I don't really have a car for this, so I'm just going to be sitting around. And then they're like, well, we got with TH Motorsports was a sponsor of Grid Life at that point. And as a sponsor, you get some free tickets. And they're like, yeah, well, just bring your, just bring a car and we'll have a good time. And I'm like, well, I don't really have a car. I'd have to steal my wife's STI. And they're like, well, just do that. And I'm like, fuck, man. It's really not set up for this, but whatever. So I decide I'm going to this. And then I tell Graham, and Graham's like, oh, dude, we got to go. We'll just both drive your car. It'll be great. But I'll just tune it and we'll put a real soft tune on it and we'll have a good time the whole weekend. I'm like, all right, fuck it, whatever. So I got to do some maintenance to it. And Graham's like, shit, you're still on side feed injectors? That is so jank. I'm like, well, my other car, which was kind of my drag car at the time, was sitting next to it in the garage. I'm like, I got a top feed conversion right here. He's like, well, why don't you convert it to top feed and we'll just tune it? I'm like, all right, well, my very first Grid Life event was a lot like all of my other Grid Life events. Was a lot like all of my other Grid Life events where I just didn't sleep. So I didn't sleep doing a top feed conversion on this damn car with as much janky shit as I could. And we got there and we ran the whole weekend, had a riot. I got to be real. I didn't sleep pretty much the entire weekend. But we were ripping around Gingerman with some really basic shit on the car and having a complete fucking riot. I think the fastest I ran that entire weekend was like a 47 or something. Like it wasn't anything to talk about.
Yeah.
But Graham and I were both like, dude, why the fuck are we drag racing? This is stupid. This was 2015, I think is when this was. Now, with that stated, I'd already done a couple of track days, some autocrosses, ran around up in, I did a lot of bombing around at Tail of the Dragon, and I was messing around a lot with sim racing and other stuff. So it isn't like I couldn't drive a car. I just didn't, I don't know. Like it was really hard for me to mentally get around this. This was a decade ago. A lot's changed thanks to Grid Life in a decade. So we find out a couple of the other tracks that they're doing. One of them being Road Atlanta that year. That was the first year they did Road Atlanta. And I'm like, I've raced that Forza and everything else, and we decide we're going to go. We did a couple other small events. I think we did Autobahn that year. Graham brought his car finally. So we were just out doing HPD, having a good time. I made some small improvements to the STI. We go to Autobahn, and me and my buddy Bailey rip that entire weekend, having a riot. This is the last time I saw my dad healthy, too. Talk my dad into going. My dad went and bought an STI 2 days later. I got a great video of my dad, him and I terrassing around Road Atlanta, and like a couple of weeks later he thought he had like a chest flu, and then he thought it was pneumonia, and come to find out smoking for years finally caught up to him, and he had some pretty nasty cancer and ended up dying from it. But at that time we were already like, we need to compete. By the end of the weekend, I was looking at the times that I was running versus what Street and Street Mod were running. And I'm like, shit, dude, we can do this. Like, so Graham and I were like, screw it. Next year, we're just going to compete. So we did. I didn't read the rules very well. This was my first lesson. Graham went out and got second or first in his first event at Road America. But his car was a fairly big power street car at that point. He did a little bit of aero. And this was the season that he went out and won Street Mod. I did my first event in Street Mod, but that's the only thing that put me in Street Mod was I was running ethanol. And we were scared to put it on pump gas because we didn't want to blow the engine up. We decided after that, it just says, it says pump fuel, no ethanol. So I started buying 100 octane for it for events, which was stupid expensive. It was like $10 a gallon. I was so poor at this point. It was so dumb. But my fuel costs were like $600 an event. It was Looney Tunes. But yeah, put the car together, dropped the car down to street. That's how I met Spaz. We had a hell of a war. I ended up on the Gears and Gasoline videos a bunch, and honestly, we had a great season. That was my first season in Time Attack. Now, I did manage to talk them into allowing ethanol, but that was when I was basically on my way out. I went as hard as I could on that chassis to do what I could within the rule set as it existed, but you were forced to stay on a stock turbo. And, I had a later model STI turbo to get me a little bit more, so I had a VF48 in there. But you were screwed against an Evo with a stock turbo. Especially an Evo with a stock turbo that was just blatantly cheating. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Spaz. He had, like, at Road Atlanta, he seriously had 15 to 17 mile an hour on the straights over me.
Jeez, yeah.
Okay, it wasn't even close.
That's a bit,
I think one of my favorite time attack stories ever was he was running around showing everybody him just running around me on the straight and bragging to everybody, and it pissed me off to no end. And then one of the problems I was having is I'd come through 11 under the bridge into 12 and the car would step out. So one of the ways I was fixing this is as I grabbed fourth gear, I'd reach down and hit the DCCD button to put it into manual, and it was almost fully locked. So I'd hit the button after I shifted fourth to throw it and lock the diff, so it would understeer through that corner, and then the rest of the corners it was fairly neutral. But either way, me and a guy who was actually my direct competitor went nuts on the alignment. Spent like an entire night working on my alignment to try to get a little more rear camber and everything out of it. And then the next morning I went out there, and I don't think I've ever got more out of a car than I did that one lap at Road Atlanta, still to this day, where I ran a 37 on a stock turbo with a full interior STI. Like, I don't think people understand how much I had to get out of that car. There's a picture of me going over 3 with only one tire on the ground. Like, I was beating the brakes off this thing. So I ended up beating Spaz by about a half second. And that's when I told Spaz, I own your penis. It's mine now. And I've never given it back. So long story short, at this time, some V8s were starting to creep into the class, and there was just other chassis that we didn't have a prayer because we were so down on power. People don't seem to remember that street for the longest time was an Evo class. It was an Evo, and for a short period of time, a V8 class. Then they made Street GT and some other stuff and split this up. But before Street GT existed, they were landing in there. We ended up, I'm looking at what Graham's doing. I saw he just won, and I'm going, I know I can win that class. I can build Graham's car better. So the whole time I'm planning on moving or building my GC that I had into this. And then this chassis comes up for sale. A guy named Brandon Cocker, who now owns an aero company. He puts this chassis up for sale for a very reasonable price, cage and everything. I'm like, shit, dude, this is it. So the cage and everything was already done. That was Boogey. I got that for a song. We were probably going to build it over the next year and show up with this. And I kept telling everybody, I'm like, I'm coming with this car. Like, it's like, I'm telling you guys, I'm building this thing to the bleeding edge of the rules as we understood them at that time. But, and it's going to be, I'm going to break this fucking class. And everybody's like, oh, whatever, dude. You're constantly talking shit. When are you going to show up with this? So they started calling it the Street Mod Boogeyman because they thought it didn't exist. So that was coined by Brad Yonkers. So Brad Yonkers coined the name, not me. And then I got this tumor in my head. And that kind of threw things for a loop. I got this tumor in my head, and it scared the shit out of me. And I'm like, at any point, some random bullshit tumor could take me out. I could have died on that operating table. I got through that pretty quick, but the second I came out of it, I'm just like, fuck this. I'm building this car right now. And that's all. That's it. It was, I'm fortunate. I am extraordinarily fortunate at that time. I was working at Six Star Motorsports that Sammy and Chach saw the same vision I did. They're like, screw it. We're going to go hard and we're going to make the first event. And that's what we did. We worked on that car non-fucking stop for like legitimately 2 months straight without sleeping. That car went from a rolling shell, not even a rolling shell. It was a shell on like casters. It didn't have any, suspension, anything in it. To
really just the chassis. To
Boogey 1.0 in like a month. It was like a month and a half. We just didn't sleep. We didn't go anywhere. We just lived at the shop. People were visiting us at the shop and bringing us Red Bulls and stuff and tacos. Man, we lived on tacos and monsters, and it was wild. But we didn't have any money either. So like most of what was built from Boogey was leftovers from 2 other cars and then just random shit we found around the shop. That was what Boogey was built with. Yeah, we slammed that thing together. And that was the core of what Boogey was until Boogey burned to the ground. That same Heltec wiring harness and everything, Graham was going to use that Heltec and then decided he wanted to go with something else. So he passed that down. It was a lot of hand-me-down, just random shit. And that was Boogey. And we made it to that first event with, a lot of things that still needed to be sorted out. And by the end of the year, the car was really starting to show what was up. But the only time I've ever been to Road Atlanta with Boogey was Boogey 1.0. And that was its 3rd event. And it wasn't even kind of close to working. And then we blew up 4? No, it was three sessions, maybe 4 sessions in. Like when we blew the thing up. So I'm pretty sure a misshift on my part caused it. But it really wasn't even that bad of a misshift. But pretty sure that's what happened. We stuck a window in the block and that was all she wrote. So yeah, and I'm really sad about that. We ran a 33 flat, tire technology's come a long way. The suspension was ass, it was a long time ago. So we ran, like I said, about a 33 flat with that. And that's where she sat. And then they stopped going to Road Atlanta. But that's really what got me into Time Attack was we showed up and I realized I could be competitive and decided to go after it. It had been a dream of mine forever. But it just didn't seem attainable. And then I realized it was via Grid Life. And, I went whole ham into it. So yeah, that was a hell of an explanation, a roundabout. But if you guys ever want to know some of my story, that's pretty much it.
I think that's the only way to go and do things. Just go dive head first.
I agree.
Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
There ain't nothing to it but to do it. And yeah, you're not going to be good at it. It might not be perfect the first time out. That's okay. You're not supposed to win the first time you're out. And if you do, that's probably a problem. I'm going to be real. I'm going to call Graham out a little bit on this. Graham won his Street Mod championship at a time where Street Mod was supposed to be cars with basic bolt-ons. Okay. So he basically...
That was supposed to be the modified class, not like your over-the-top stuff.
Nobody was building a car for the class. So Graham shows up. They'd never even wrapped their brain around the concept of a car that could make... Graham's car on kill could make 700 to the wheels. Okay. The majority of the cars that were in the class at that point were making 400.
That wild difference.
So
that's what Street is now doing. Like 4 to 5.
To Graham's defense, Graham pretty much the entire year didn't run much over 5, but he still had 100 horsepower advantage over everybody. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So Graham showed up with everybody's pants down, but Graham did kick off the Street Mod arms race. Like, because everybody looked at Graham ran people right out of Street Mod. Like, people completely just did not run Street Mod. Street Mod took a couple of years to like breathe, and then a bunch of us psychopaths started showing up. Everything changed when we started showing up. Oh, yeah. Street Mod. Yeah. So, yeah, crazy. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, say it's a little crazy.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Times. But yeah, the only thing to do it, nothing to it but to do it. Like, and it's not going to be right. And what I was trying to get at, I remember what I was saying. Graham caught everybody with their pants down. But I think for years, I don't think Graham realized how far Street Mod had advanced. He gets it now because he's a lot more involved in Boogey than he used to be. Right. I think he got really lucky winning that championship, and I don't want to say it went to his head, but that will never happen again. And there were soft classes within Grid Life, especially around COVID, and during that time, there were some soft classes in Grid Life, and honestly, one of the softest ones was Street Mod. And there's no such thing as a soft class anymore. Track Mod is a war zone. Street Mod is a war zone. Street is a fucking war zone.
Street is a real big war zone already. Like
Club TR, war zone. Yeah, honestly, the softest class is unlimited.
I would have to agree. There's just not that many people doing unlimited.
Mm-hmm. You got a chance to show up with a fairly subpar car that's on Hoosiers and still podium in unlimited. So
right.
Yeah, that's kind of how that all happened. So if you guys ever were wondering.
All right. Next question.
Yeah. All right, let's get now we are on to the we're on to the questions in the chat. So hopefully you've been keeping up on them.
Well, before we get answer some questions, you have a question for the audience.
Oh,
you're looking for an 06 to an 07 center diff.
I am looking for an 06 or 07 STI center differential, and it has to be one from an oil pump car. Okay, an oil pump trans. It can't be a non-oil pump trans. Long story short, it has to have the gear. If it doesn't have the gear, I can't do anything. I just need the center diff. If you got like a busted 06 or 07 trans, hit me up. I don't need it immediately. I need it as a spare. Okay. So if you guys have one floating around, I would love to hear about it. So
all right.
Let me know. So
hopefully someone has one laying around.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully
Mary
somebody's
says
got
you're
one.
Looking for a pot of gold.
I kind of am. I'm kind of not. I'm really hoping somebody's got like an 06 STI trans that grinds like hell. They just got in a corner and maybe we can work something out. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I need the center diff.
Yeah. All right. So first question from the chat we picked up was, I think Chris with the STI asked this, when do you think a surge tank becomes prevalent or needed, as long with running new front lines to the rear and things like and such?
Okay. Let's start from the top here. Fuel system stuff. Let's just kind of go through the progression of fuel systems. Okay. You have dropping a pump in. Okay. For most people, your sub 400, 450 horsepower guys, even with most drop-in pumps, that's probably fine. Street guys. Okay. Street people, if you're doing basic street stuff, that should be plenty. If you're going to the track, okay, this changes the equation. So what I'm going to lay out here is going to be street and kind of drag to start with, okay? Past about that 450 horsepower mark, you're probably going to have to go to some dual pump setup at a minimum. Radium right now, even though the company has... I personally have some mixed opinions on them, okay? They do make by far the best option for a drop-in solution for a double pump setup. 2 pumps, depending on which pumps they are, can take you all the way to 800 plus, even more. You got to make sure they're hardwired. But as far as pumps go in the back, you could do that. Now, this is going in a straight line. This is terracing down the highway. Corners are not involved here. Okay. If you're trying to make more power than that, there's a few different ways you can go about your fuel system, but that's, you're going to want to have a consultation. If you're making more power than that, you are probably either talking to a shop, or if you are building this garage and you're trying to building this in your garage and you're trying to make more power than that, you better know better. So, if you're going to the track, the equation changes a lot. Jeremy Bailey has a 100 or 220 horsepower BRZ, and he runs a surge tank. He doesn't run a surge tank because he needs a giant pump. He runs a surge tank to stop fuel slosh. So he runs an OEM fuel tank that then feeds that pump in there, feeds the surge tank, and then that pump in the surge tank is in a much smaller volume area, and that feeds the engine. And since the volume of that area is so much smaller, there's nowhere for it to slosh. The other nice thing is if you have a surge tank set up correctly, the feed pump from your tank, it'll feed the surge tank, but it also has a return from the surge tank. So in essence, that pump isn't under any pressure. So let's say you have a 340 liter per hour fuel pump. Okay. Since it's not under any pressure, it becomes freakishly efficient. It'll run it. I don't quote me on these numbers, but it'll run it like 500 liter per hour or something. Some like Looney Tunes amount because it's under no pressure. So you don't need a crazy large fuel pump to keep a surge tank full. If you're doing track stuff a lot, okay, if you're just starting out, my recommendation to everybody is don't go out on track without a full tank and come in when you get under a half. Okay. What's happening is
I learned that the hard way.
Fuel will slosh. It'll slosh away from the oil or the fuel pickup, and your car will run lean for a split second. It can blow your engine. Okay. It's no joke. It legitimately happens, and it happens a lot. Okay. So don't go out with anything under a half tank or under a full tank. Come in at a half tank. Okay. When you're sick of doing that, and you've went to a few track days, you're like, I really like this. I think I'm going to, move towards this direction. That's when you start talking about a surge tank. It has nothing to do with power levels. It has to do with you need to keep fuel in one spot. Now there's different types of surge tanks. My favorite happens to be Fuel Lab. Radium has their own options for this where they put in multiple pumps inside of a surge tank. Again, not a huge fan of that. I'm a big fan of Fuel Lab because they put a single brushless pump that does an absurd amount of fuel into their surge tank, and it's this nice plug and play simple unit. It's literally 3 wires. It's power, ground, and signal. And if you don't put signal on it, it just runs 100% all the time. Mega simple thing. So just that surge tank
all the time.
Well, the problem with that is A, it's a little loud, and B, it will create heat. Okay, so
True.
My recommendation for most people, if you're not running a standalone ECU, you can get their fancy fuel pressure regulator that has a power, ground, and signal out of there. And that signal literally goes straight to the signal to the fuel pump, and it will control it. So as if it sees it needs duty, it'll just turn the pump up. It's a great system, and it's mega simple, and it'll work with anything. It kind of works on its own. It's easy. Doesn't take much power. It's good stuff. So that's a super valid option for people who are trying to keep it simple. But that surge tank has got one gnarly pump in it. Okay. And that pump is good depending on which one you get, can be well over 1,000 wheel on ethanol. Okay, these are serious single pumps. The reason I like a single pump, though, is if anything in your system, your one pump in the feed goes bad, your big pump in your surge tank goes bad, something along those lines, if one of them goes bad, the car turns off. It doesn't continue to run lean. I would rather the car just turn off than eat my engine. So a single pump, in my opinion, is a better answer for most people. So then that surge tank feeds up to the front, and then the return comes back. Depending on how you're set up with Fuel Lab, more than likely it's going to return into the tank. Fuel Lab really doesn't like you to do that. If you're using their goofy fuel pressure regulator, you need to return it to your stock fuel tank versus the surge tank, which is a little weird, but that is how Fuel Lab wants it. Again, before you set that up, make sure you have a conversation. Now, the next question that was had was, when do you replace fuel lines going up to the front?
It's part of the same question. It kind of goes right with it. Yep.
So that one's pretty standard. People have made over 700 on those stock fuel lines, but I don't recommend it. I would tell you about 600 wheel. About 600 wheel, it's time to change out those lines. Go up to either a -6 or a -8. If you're already going to be running all the way up there and you don't know how much power you're going to make in the future, at least do a -8 feed. Okay? Yeah, it's a big feed, but just a little extra money online. It's not that big of a deal. That's what you should do. And then run that up to the front. And at this point, you should already have fuel lines and everything under your hood, but we can talk about that really quick. Under your hood and all the stuff that's running around there, about 400 wheel, you should be changing out your fuel lines under your hood. Depending on what you're doing, maybe even sooner. So
if you're already buying a kit for it, most of those kits have line already too.
Holy shit, there was a lot of comments. And that I missed.
Yeah. Nothing, I would say nothing too crazy.
Okay. All right. So where we at?
I've been keeping an eye on it. But so this another question by Chris, it kind of wraps into the whole surge tank things. And I think this is kind of self-explanatory already. But he asks, would the radium dual hanger for the new V8 chassis act like a baby surge tank?
No. And the biggest reason why is it's too small of a volume for a long corner. It'd be a long right-hand corner for it not to empty that surge tank, even with its stupid little check valve. Okay.
Right.
Not only that, I think we already went into why I'm not a big fan of double pumpers. Now, here's what I will tell you. You probably still need that tank. If you have anything 08 or newer, and you have the plastic hanger, you're probably still going to need that radium piece if you're putting in a surge tank, because you can't add bulkhead fittings and, feed and return and stuff like that to a plastic tank. You're a plastic hanger. You're going to need that radium hanger no matter what. So you're going to end up buying it. I just maybe don't like it.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, like, it doesn't really act as a surge tank because all your fuel is just going to slosh to at one side of the tank anyways.
Yeah.
And your dual hanger is just going to suck air anyways.
Yep.
I ran the same problem into my in my VA at Gingerman coming out of turn 10. And once I'm out of the turn, it immediately died. If I was below a quarter tank, it would fall flat on its face.
Yeah. Yep. And the more power you make, the worse it is.
Right, exactly.
That was probably stock turbo.
What was that?
That was probably stock turbo or small upgrade turbo.
It was the stock turbo still.
See, there you go.
It still did that. The only upgrade I had to the car at the moment was an IAG block and getting ready for further upgrades. I literally just threw it in there to get it out on track for the season. It's
probably the only reason you didn't murder that block.
Probably. It's probably exactly what it was.
I got to be real. Gingerman was designed by the gods to kill Subaru engines. Dude, it is literally a perfect combination of corners to kill Subaru engines. Everything from 6 to 10 is designed to kill your engine, and then you get to hear it on the way to 11. Hopefully you hear the rod knock before you go past 11, because that's where the pit in is. So then you hear your rod knock about halfway down the straight going towards 11. You got just enough time to pull in and have a cry.
That's right. I was going to say, I do believe looking, even in a stock car and stock suspension, most turns I was pulling maybe 1 to 1.5 Gs and then 1.8 to 2 and out of 10. Easily. Yeah. All right. So next question from maybe it's Chris again. I can't remember. But how much is it to ship stuff to Japan?
Oh,
or is it Kane? It might be Kane.
I think it's Chris. Either way, you're getting it. Whoever asked how much it is to ship to Japan, here's what I'm going to tell you. A long block is very large and heavy. A fuel pressure regulator is very small. They cost drastically different things. So I don't know. It's anywhere in between $20 and $2,000. I don't know. Figure out what you want and where you're at. Send me your address, and I will need your phone number also. And it needs to be your exact address, not just Japan. Okay? And I say this because I deal with this on a daily basis. People hit me up with that exact question. How much is it to send something to wherever? What is something? You know what I mean? It's so drastically different. And I can't believe that doesn't dawn on people that, like, we sell everything from engines to, fuel injectors, or I'm thinking like O-rings, for your AOS. Like, it's going to be a lot cheaper to send O-rings for your AOS than a long block.
Yeah.
What do you
want?
want?
Size matters.
What do you want? You know what I mean? So it'll depend on what you want. Do you want me to say shipping is reasonable? I don't know what reasonable is to you. You know what I mean? It's that, like, the question itself is flawed from the beginning. I love you. I love anybody else who hits me up and asks how much this is to ship to whatever. But half the time they don't tell me what this even is. They just say, how much is shipping to? How much is shipping what to?
So I don't know what shipping is like per item, but I know one of my Connexes from China and Japan used to cost like $6,000. It now costs $30,000 for the same Connex.
Yeah, and it changes all the time. It changes depending on, like, the dollar. It changes on what diesel prices are. It changes on if it got windy somewhere or not. It changes on if Donald Trump decided to take a shit that day or not. It completely changes all the time. So what I quote you that day, 2 weeks later, it might be different. That's why we can only hold quotes for a certain amount of time.
All right. So next question. This is asked by Brad. Did you ever get your power steering sorted, or do you just sling iron and to get some Popeye arms to?
Dude, I'm in here just getting jacked, bro. I'm on a pure protein diet. I ingest nothing. It's literally 400 grams of protein a day. It's just nothing but protein. There's no testing for roids and grid life, so I'm on gear. And I'm just jacked out of my fucking mind. My nuts have shriveled into tiny little peanuts, and I have acne everywhere. And I punch drywall all the time. No, seriously. We have, people need to understand that the power steering problems that we were having, that was a shakedown. Okay, we didn't know if it was going to work or not, or what the situation was. We felt okay about it for the most part until we got to the track, and it was even showing signs before that. We didn't know. We'd never messed with electric power steering in a car that it wasn't supposed to be in. Long story short, where we had the pump placed on top of how much the 15 plus STI rack needs as far as pressure, we're already on the bleeding edge with this Volvo pump. But then since we put the Volvo pump in the trunk, it set us that much further over. So it didn't work for us. Okay. So what we did is we found this, we got a recommendation from a homie that, about this guy who rebuilds these Porsche Cup pumps in Poland for a very reasonable price. And we checked the specs on it, and it's like double and a half of the Volvo pump. So we ordered that up. It showed up, popped it in, and it already feels a ton better. 'Cause we kind of know how to test it now, and Dylan beat the shit out of it. You know, one of the hardest things you can do with a power steering pump is not be moving and sit and turn back and forth. And he went multiple minutes with it just laughing at it, which the Volvo pump, I couldn't even get like 2 quick turns in before it turned off. So we're in a much better place now. We are pretty confident we have it sorted out, which is really exciting. But we'll let you know. And as soon as we figure this out, maybe I'll hit up the company and be like, hey, this really worked well for us. Is there a way maybe we can, I don't really need anything from it, but we got it from an eBay link. Okay. And I want to see if maybe I can send directly to him or however he wants. I want to chat with him because I want an extra one. So I'm going to see if I can't set something up with him about, hey, get me an extra one and I will promote the living shit out of this. So we'll see. So what do you got?
All right. Next question is by Connor. He's asking, do you have any plans for aero development this year?
We have plans for it, but it's busy around here. We got some of the big brains. They scan the car, and we're kind of putting some ideas together. But it's, you know, we would probably have put something together for Road America if it wasn't for the sequential we're putting in, taking up a huge amount of our resources right now. There's probably going to be some fairly simple aero modifications on there by Midwest Fest. I don't think we're going to be all the way to where we want to be, but even simple aero modifications, I think, are going to go a long, long way. So hopefully we see that. I'm a little bumming that we're not going to change much by Road Atlanta, because Road Atlanta is a big aero track. People don't realize it, but it absolutely is. 12 and 1 are just giant aero corners, and there's so much time in it. But it is what it is. I'm just going to have to wheel it.
You said 12 and 1 at Atlanta?
Yeah. 12. So the last corner and corner, turn 1. So those 2 corners are super high speed, and they're all about tire and aero. That's all it is.
I know during practice I kept fucking up the first corner so much. And if you don't know that the actual 12A actually turns right, and 12 when you come up that hill, you're looking at 12B. And if you don't realize that, you're going right off track.
Yeah, that's like why they put those marks on the bridge. Yeah, that's why they're there, is to line you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's insane.
It'll be fun. But speaking of Road Atlanta, Author asked this question: what lap times are you expecting at Atlanta? If you,
I want to try to stay conservative with this. Okay. Some of this is coming from just pure fear of Boogey last time I was there and it not working out real well, but I am a significantly better driver, and this is a way better car than it was then. If I get it right, I think we're going to run 27s. Okay. I don't think we have a 25 in it. The biggest reason for that is I don't think we have the aero for it, and I don't think we have the tire for it. This is not a great track for this car. Now, with that stated, this car does have some advantages in places that the other ones don't, and I might not be giving it enough credit. We're going to leave, what corner is that? 7? Whatever the corner is in the very back going onto the straight. I think it's 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah. We're going to leave 7 faster than everybody. We're all-wheel drive. Okay. I'm going to be able to dig that corner hard as shit. All right. We're going to be able to dig out of a 10B probably better than everybody. Okay. So we're going to be able to get up over 11 better than everybody. And we should be able to, after the S's, I think that's 5. Yeah. So because of all-wheel drive, the car's really stable going over the bumps when trailing out on the outside of 5. I'm not scared of it. And now that we think we actually fixed some rear suspension, I think the car is actually going to have some more travel than it's ever had. I don't know if you knew this, but axles do not make good bump stops. So
really?
So I'm hoping for some improvements on that, and I have a feeling we're going to be able to blow over that curbing pretty well. And I am also, this will be the first time I've ever had a sequential. Okay, so that could go one of two ways. It could freak me out, or it could gain me a fuck ton of time I wasn't realizing. It could go either way. There could be.
I think it's gonna be both.
I think it's gonna be both also, and that could be good or bad. So we don't know. Okay. I think if we come away with like a mid 27, and that's just what the car runs, I'm gonna walk away pretty happy with that. If we win or lose, but still walk away with a mid 27, I'm not gonna be mad about it. Okay. My goal personally for the weekend, and that always gets adjusted, but walking into it is going to be around a mid 27. So,
good goal.
The Supras, I got to be real. Everybody's like Supra. They've got really well developed aero, and they have a little more tire than we do. And they're going to be dumb fast through 12 and 1. Like there's a very good chance they could have 15 plus mile an hour on us through those two corners. And the other thing is, it's so early in the season. We just got all this. I'm not going to wad this car up. I'm not wadding it up for this one event. I'm not doing it. So
yeah, that's why I'm going to take it easy too.
I'm not going to risk it for the biscuit here. Unless, it's real close and I feel like the time is there. I'm not going to risk it for the biscuit. I'm not, so if that's disappointing to some people, I'm sorry, but, this track has to be approached in a particular manner. So
it's a very deceiving track.
It seems
like if you look at the overhead,
it absolutely is not. There's so much weird little nuance. How do I want to put this? Let's go back to my GR STI with no arrow. A 41 and a 37. So a 141 and a 137 are about the same amount of scary. But okay. It's really hard to determine, but there's so much more time left out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's
I think I will be happy if I get a 141.
If you get a 141, I will be fucking astounded, by the way.
I've been on sim, I've been laying down high 30s. That's with aero. So
yeah, that's with aero in a gutted car. That's with a sequential. Okay, there's a lot going on there, and that car has more power than you.
I would be happy with a 141, maybe a 140.
You need to find out what Juice Bailey ran.
Yeah.
Find out what Bailey ran when he was there in 2019.
Yeah, 19. Yeah, I talked to him a little bit earlier. I'll talk to him again.
I find out what he ran, whatever he ran, because he put together a pretty fucking decent time there. Whatever he ran, that's what you should be aiming for. Okay.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
All right, let's move on, shall we?
Okay.
Um,
Arthur had
so
another
this
one. Did you get to
question,
that? The VASTI or RS3?
what was that?
Arthur asked VASTI or RS3 as an occasional track streetcar. I'm going to answer that
Missed
real quick.
one. Yeah, answer it. Yeah.
Okay, Arthur, VASTI or RS3? Really depends on what you're trying to do. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The VASTI is going to be much more rewarding to drive. The RS3 is probably going to turn a little bit faster lap time, and it's going to make it, again, it's going to depend on what you want out of the car as far as a daily driver. The thing that sucks about an RS3, and I have driven S3s and RS3s on track at this point. The diffs kind of leave a bit to be desired. Now, I'm not saying you can't go fast in it. You put good tires on and it'll do a lot for you too. The VASTI is going to be a little more dynamic to drive and a lot of fun. The RS3 again probably will turn a faster lap time. But it's not going to be anywhere near as entertaining. But it is a nicer car. There's no getting around that. So it's really in what you want out of it. That's where you're at. So, all right, what do we got?
All right, this one's by Kane. He asks, "What's the best turbo blanket to fit my VF48? My OEM cover has been removed."
This is so simple, guys. I know
Hey,
turbo blankets.
Some people need to know where to start.
No. I'm with you. This just drives me nuts. Okay, this is another one of those. I'm happy we're actually hitting these topics. This is why I like Ask Dewey's. Okay, these are good. Okay, on our site. Okay, you go to IAGperformance.com, you type in turbo blanket, and the very first thing that'll come up is IAG Turbo Heat Shield Blanket for WRX STI turbos with internal wastegates. That's the one you need. I think this is confusing. I think we need to change this to say IAG Turbo Heat Shield Blanket for stock location turbos.
Yeah.
Okay, because people are confused. They're like, well, I've got it because it doesn't look shaped like a turbo. It's flat because it wraps around the turbo. People are like, I don't know if I have a T3 or T4. Well, what turbo do you have? A VF48. It's neither of those. That's a rotated, T3 and T4 turbos are huge rotated turbos. But those, if you look at them, they look like turbo blankets. They're shaped that way and everything. So it's if you don't know, it's confusing. And that's why I recommend that's the one you need. Okay, it's really reasonably priced, $109. We always have them in stock. Works great, fits great. That's the answer. Okay, so you just need the one with the it says IAG Turbo Heat Shield Blanket for WRX STI turbos with internal wastegate. Part number is IAG-EXT-4001. Like I said, always got them in stock. In fact, we have 111 of them in stock right now.
Hell yeah.
So, there you go.
All right, moving on. This another question by Chris. He's just got a pocket full of these questions.
Yeah.
Do you all run track insurance for Grid Life?
I do not. The biggest reason is if I were to wad it up, I already have a backup car ready to go. Okay. And now that I'm odd with that. I don't, but probably should in some situations. Okay. Especially like Road Atlanta. I have a backup plan ready to go. All it would do is motivate us to do said backup plan sooner. Most people don't. If you can't afford to take that car on track and wad it up, you should probably look into track day insurance. Okay. If it is your daily driver and you need to drive it to work the next day, no matter what, you should look into track day insurance. Track day insurance is pretty cool. And not only that, you can put a declared value on it. So let's say your car is maybe a 13 BRZ, but it's got a whole lot of, suspension mods and stuff. And you really can't replace that with just basically a 13 BRZ. It's really more worth about 30 grand, not 15. you can declare the value being 30 grand, and then they will insure it for 30 grand. Or like Boogey, it's a 95 Impreza L. That's a $5,000 car. Boogie's worth well over 100 grand. Okay, it might not look it, but it definitely is. So if I were to insure that, I'd probably insure it for, $75,000 to $100,000. Maybe 50. I don't know. We'd have a talk about it.
I would say 150. Get all your money's worth out of it.
I'd get every damn dime out of it, but they'll insure it for whatever. But the price just keeps going up and up and up, depending on what it is. So you got to watch out with that too.
And you gotta shop around too, just like any other insurance. Some are cheaper than others for the same value, like insured value. So as you know, I will be running track insurance for one. I'm not even running my own car this season.
So it's a little different. Like if you were to,
it's a little different.
One of the agreements we came to that, I will loan this car to you, but you need to run track day insurance because if you do wad this up, I need some way to replace it. And
for sure, 100%.
So that was part of the agreement, and he did that. And you got to take all that into account. That's all I'm saying. Track day insurance is really good, but it can get really expensive. If you have some rare car or like hyper exotic or something like that, you'd be fucking retarded not running some sort of insurance on it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because shit happens, man. There's a guy who sent me something the other day where he had a control arm in the rear brake and it threw him into a wall. Car was really pretty. It just sucked. It was just shit situation. Hey, look, that's Sir Omega down in the chat. Sir Omega was the listener who heard we needed the rain guard door sill things, and he's down in Australia. And he sent them over to us, so they're on the way right now.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Sick. What a guy.
What a guy.
Can't thank him enough. That's just proof that Boogey is the people's champ. And it is the community car. And when we win, we want all of you guys to feel like you win too. That's the idea. Oh shit, I got my buddy Ronnie down in the chat too. What up, Ronnie? Ronnie and I are high school homies, okay? I'm going to tell you a quick little story about Ronnie. Ronnie does circle track racing now, and he's pretty freaking good at it. He's been desperately trying to get me to go run around in circles with him, and I want to have him hop in something like Boogey or something else one of these days. Dolly, whatever. We'll come up with something. But Ronnie's a OG homie of mine. Ronnie's actually slaved on Boogey on a few weekends before too, because we back in Michigan, yada yada yada. But we both used to race skating, like roller skating, and we were fucking good. We were undefeated at the Roller Fox, and you can ask anybody if you showed up at the Roller Fox between I don't know, like 97 and 2000, you were getting your ass beat by us. That's what's up. That's my humble brag there. Weird flex, dude. So
all right. Kane asks,
yeah,
what's your opinion on flat foot shifting from Cobb?
For drag racing, it's great. For track use, I mean, if you need to if you got to ask yourself this, if breaking something in your trans is worth, maybe the couple of tenths you're going to get, then by all means. If it's not worth it to you, don't do it. Okay? A couple of tenths on a drag strip's a long time. A couple of tenths in time attack can be a long time too. I'm not trying to say it's not, but it's not something you want to just go out there and rip laps flat footing. It's really hard on a trans. You will break shit. So, yep, there you go.
Chris also asks again, you would like to go over the Link GX4.
I mean,
doesn't say, he just wants to talk about it.
I can talk about it real fast. All right. So the Link GX4 on the market today, if you were to buy a plug and play standalone ECU on the market today, you're you're going to have a very hard time finding a better option than for the price, a better value. It's basically the cost of a Cobb and a flex fuel kit and just a hair more, but it opens up a whole nother world to you. For the Link plug and play is absolutely incredible for what it is. Now, there's some other options that are about to start batting in that same area. Mtron has a new cheaper option happening, and there's quite a few companies making plug and play harnesses for them. But the Link, again, very hard to beat for the money. It's really good. It's really, really good. I would say the vast majority of people, anything they would ever need, they can do with a Link. Now, for us, some of the crazier shit that we're starting to dip into, the Link wasn't going to be enough. Okay. What I will say is, if I'm very happy Mtron came on board with us, but if they wouldn't have, there was a very good chance Boogey was going to go to a Link that next season. But Mtron was like, we want to be a part of this. Just sick, because that actually opened up a whole lot of new things that we didn't even think was possible. And I'm super stoked we have. And if knowing what I know now, then I would have went to the Mtron. So, it's, in my opinion, if you're going to buy a standalone and you don't have a ton of money to spend, or you need an entry-level standalone or something along those lines, or you have no plans of messing with your harness or whatever, on the market today, I think it's your best option, okay? If you're looking to get a little more advanced, Mtron's more than likely the plan. Unless you've got a full motorsports budget or whatever, then we can all have a cry, and then you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. So, yeah. So there you go.
All right. So when we were talking about fuel systems, specifically like 340 pumps and stuff like that, Steph asked, do you need a standalone to run said pumps?
No.
I think Dylan answered that pretty quickly in the chat, but just for those who...
You don't.
Yeah, you don't need one.
Nope. That's one of the nice things about fuel pumps just in general, like AM 340 or whatever. You don't even need to tune most of the time unless they are like egregiously large and blowing through your fuel pressure regulator. But if you have an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator, even your stock fuel pressure regulator, here's a good example. If you purchase an 04 to an 07 STI, the very first thing you should do is make sure it doesn't have the OEM fuel pump in it, and put some form of aftermarket fuel pump in it. You don't have to tune for it. You don't have to do anything. The fuel pressure regulator will take care of it. Okay. But the stock pump was undersized for that car. Okay. And if it has any form of modification done to it whatsoever, it can outrun that pump. So go stick, an AEM 340, one of those small Walboros in there, something. The old Walboro 255 was enough for, pump gas, fun stuff around, but they're getting long in the tooth. Okay, so that pump's probably been in there a really damn long time. If you're purchasing one of those older cars, just do it. It's going to cost you like $120. So there you go.
Yeah, that's not bad for a fuel pump. Quick little upgrade.
I got somebody asking about a 2.4 swap in Dolly.
That was mentioned,
yeah.
And I just put little an emoji on it. I don't know. Things might be in the works.
Things might be. It's something I've always wanted to do. Honestly, it's something I definitely want to do. That FA20 in there is still kicking, but if Jordan manages to kill it, that's the plan.
Yeah.
And we're gonna stick a 2.4 in it, and we're just gonna get a Link plug and play ECU for it. We just talked about Link. We're going to get a Link plug and play for it, and that's going to sort out all the stupid shit. And it's basically I have to change like 3 or 4 wires, and it drops right in. It's like super simple if you get the Link plug and play.
Super easy.
Yeah, so that is the plan.
All right. So moving on from there, I actually missed this question. Someone they brought it back up. It was actually asked pretty early on. DJ asked, he states he has an 04 Forester XT. It's leaking oil from the turbo/downpipe. He's asking, would it be blow by, or does he need to replace the turbo?
it depends on what turbo's on there, but I would check the turbo. More than likely, if it's in the downpipe and it's not before the downpipe, blow by tends to not stick on. Like if it's like an egregious amount of oil, it's probably turbo seals, dude. I just got to be real.
It most likely is turbo seals. I would have to.
I would put money on it being turbo seals.
He says it's a TD04.
It's turbo seals.
Right.
You got to think the TD04 hasn't been made since 09, I think was the last car was on with the WRX GT because they couldn't get rid of 08 WRXs because they were trash. So they called it the WRX GT. Or no, they called it the Impreza GT, sorry. They called it the Impreza GT, which what it was a leftover 08 WRX.
Yeah, there you go. Upgrade it. Whole new turbo.
Yep.
Like the solution.
Now's the time.
The solution. All right, Dewey. Smitty asks, are you bringing back the blue hair?
Oh, I mean, he's hitting it hard, dude. I'm starting to get there. I tell my wife all the time I miss it. I kind of want to bring it back.
It was a statement.
It was a statement. I kind of want to bring it back. And I got to be real.
Said you're here to party.
Not only that, like a lot of cool shit happened. I'm not going to say due to the blue hair, but I bet you it got me noticed. Like I got on a TV show during that time period.
You sure did.
And I mean, there was a lot happened during the blue hair time period. A lot of positive stuff happened. So I'm not against it. Okay. Let's just say like we're going to put a pin in that and we might circle back to it. Okay. Cause it is in high consideration.
Chris goes, a former Marine having blue hair is something I'd never hear.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I don't give a shit.
It's the crayons, I guess.
The crayons went, and I love the blue crayons, and they just went straight to my hair. And actually, the color of my hair was aquamarine. So, I mean, it even had marine in the name.
There you go.
So,
all right. So I got one last question written down.
Okay, we got a couple on here. I know Mary's really excited to. Mary Fields is going to go to her first Grid Life event next week at Road Atlanta.
And it's going to be Atlanta? That'd be awesome to meet her. Hell yeah!
Strangest Grid Life event ever. Because it's like with Formula D, and it's like there's a lot of just weird shit happening.
It'll be weird, dude. It is going to be a very fast weekend.
I'm gonna throw this out there. So we were talking about camping.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Technically you're not supposed to camp there, but it sounds like the biggest reason they have like an insurance thing they're worried about. And Grid Life just has to say that. But I guess what they're really trying to avoid is people partying, which I don't know if any of you guys have ever went to Grid Life South events back in the day, but they were rowdy. Okay. And the last one ended with the state police being called in with riot gear to put us all to bed. Okay, it went pretty fucking hard. Yeah, I get why they don't want us to go that hard, but it sounds like basically, no partying. You can't look like you're camping. Let's look at it. Let's put it that way. So,
I wasn't even saying it being like fast in that regard. I'm just saying everything between Formula Drift and Grid Life, everything is cram packed. They're trying to fit an entire weekend.
It's
Not only do we have one less day,
it's gonna be pretty wild.
It's gonna be smashed together. It's gonna be running extremely fast pace.
I really want to see. I want Mary to go to either Grid Life Midwest or, if you guys are ever like, I want to go see a Grid Life. The
Midwest.
two you need to go to are either Midwest or Summer Apex, which is at Road America. And then third place would definitely be Lime Rock, which that's got its own weird vibe to it, which is super cool. I love Lime Rock. But if you want to like get the whole festival real, music mind blow vibe, Midwest is where it's at. There's still they can't cram any more people in there. It's now maxed out at 40,000 people, but they will cram every ass they can in there at 40,000 people. And then Summer Apex is going to turn into it's already the other big event, but Road America is huge. So there's so much more. I'm telling you, within the next 5 years, they're going to put 100,000 people in there.
I can imagine it.
I'm not even like, that is, Chris is going hard with that. He plans on getting massive acts still to go to that. The track is crazy. They can run drifting all day long. Like, there's so much good that happens there, and they have so much more room. So, yep.
Sadly, I was unable to snag a ticket for Summer Apex.
Well, you should at least go.
And I'm gonna go regardless, just to hang out. Anyways, if I can, I'll buy a TA ticket if someone.
I'm gonna tell you right now, it's
gonna be hard to find one.
I bet you it's always 3 days before you'll get one. If you want to get into any event, wait till 3 days before tickets will go on sale. Because it'll be people trying to put something together and they just can't. But what I am gonna tell you is, Dolly is fucking awful there. It's
dude, I don't. Yeah, that's to say
it is so boring in that car on that track.
I say it's a high speed track. That's
dude. I hate admitting this, but it's the truth. I took a phone call on the front straight.
That's funny. You're like, hey, I got all this time. I might as well kill
it now. They're like, holy shit, why'd you answer the phone? I'm like, because honestly, this car's really slow on the straights, and it's a really long straight. But I'm gonna have to hang up on you in a couple of seconds, because I'm running out of straightaway. Oh, okay, well, see you later. Later.
I think we did that. I think we did that at Flatfest too. We were autocrossing, and you picked the phone up accidentally while we were on the track.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
You're like, hey, what's going on? I don't know, man. I'm racing. Hangs up.
I don't even know how that happened. That was so weird.
Dude, I have no idea. It was funny as fuck.
Are you going to do Flatfest this year? I kind of want to go do it again.
We can go do Flatfest.
That was fun, man. Boogey won't be there, I'm pretty sure, but we'll go steal somebody else's car and go fuck around. I had such a good time at that event.
I can bring Dolly,
we'll either take Dolly or we'll just go beat up frickin' Warranty's car some more, and I'll just fly in.
That's true.
We'll just go beat his shit up.
Yeah, definitely could.
Yeah. Don't overthink that.
Yeah. All right. So last question I have written down was, Dewey, what is your favorite track to drive and why?
Mid-Ohio. Mid-Ohio has everything. It's got long straights, it's got high speed corners, it's got tight corners, it's got crazy elevation changes and weird spots. It's got the entry into Thunder Valley, which is my favorite single corner in all of the tracks we go to in Grid Life. I love Mid-Ohio. Gingerman and Pit Race are probably tied for second, but for different reasons. Pit Race is crazy. It's like driving a really wild mountain road, in my opinion. A lot of weird elevation, some on camber corners, off camber corners, ripping through hills and stuff. A little bit of speed, but not too much. I really like the track itself. It's maintained well. The facility's great. It's like Pit Race is a lot of fun. And if your car's fast at Pit Race, it's probably fast anywhere. You never get to race on a lap, or never get to rest on a lap of Pit Race. You are constantly working. So it keeps your brain moving. It's really good. Gingerman I love because it's the safest track in North America. Like, fight me on that.
No, you're right. It's all open.
There's nothing to hit.
You run into a patch of grass.
It does have a little bit of elevation, but not much. But the thing I
like about... The worst corner is the last one. 11.
The flattest corner? Yeah.
I said the worst corner. That's the only one with a wall next to it.
Yeah,
really.
And you'd have to fuck up so bad on 11 to hit a wall. The amount you would fuck up is unreal. The thing I like about Gingerman, and it's one of the reasons I like pit race too, is you will never run a perfect lap of Gingerman. You'll never do it. There's no such thing as a perfect lap of Gingerman. There's also like 30 different ways to attack Gingerman. Like everybody's got their own approach to every single corner. And none of them are right, none of them are wrong. Gingerman is very analog, is a very good way of putting that. And I'm a big fan of analog tracks. That's why I like Mid-Ohio. Pit race is the same way. Gingerman, honestly, in my opinion, is the best time attack track in North America, though. And I will fight somebody on that. It's perfectly balanced. It's got 2 decent-sized straights that require a decent amount of traction. Okay, if your arrow's set up correctly, there's high-speed stuff enough to where arrow is going to make a giant difference. But a car with a ton of horsepower but can't handle isn't going to do great there. A car that handles really great but doesn't have any horsepower is, not going to drastically excel there. It's balanced. But not only that, it kind of like eggs you into trying to go fast, because there's really nothing to hit. So I love Gingerman. It's super balanced. It's a great track. And again, I think it's the closest thing to Tsukuba we have in the US. I wish we had something like Tsukuba. I like Tsukuba because it's short and it's got everything.
Very short.
It's very short, but it has everything within that time period. What I would love to see is in the center of the country, out in the middle of nowhere, somebody build a scale model of Tsukuba. And I think they should put one on every continent. And like that becomes, it's like the time attack drag strip where Tsukuba is the same distance and the same elevation and the same like gradients with the same type of concrete everywhere in the world. You know what I mean? So we can start comparing times. I think that would be sick.
Yeah,
and it's small enough to where you
be
could.
Very fair to have a uniform track to compare times just worldwide. That would be awesome, actually.
And that's the perfect track to do it. You don't need a ton of space.
Yeah, it's a very small track.
Yep.
So speaking of tracks, and I know you said Mid-Ohio is your favorite, I wonder how much that will change. I mean, most of the tracks are going to stay the same, but China Beach is going to be different this year.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that affects us. Times are going to change.
Times will change. Yeah.
I will say blowing into China Beach at a clip was kind of sketchy. And if things go bad at the speeds you were going, they went really bad. Okay.
I would launch your car.
Yeah, it turned into a fucking ramp. So I understand the changes made to the track and I don't necessarily disagree with them. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to affect it. The time will definitely run a slower time, but I don't think it's going to affect the fun level of the track for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the majority of the track is it's staying the same.
If anything,
it's
it
just
might actually give us a little bit of an advantage because that's going to turn into a little bit of a dig corner.
It will. I was gonna say it's gonna slow you way down going into it.
Yeah,
you have to dig out of it for sure. I think it's gonna change the next 2 turns coming out of there significantly.
Yeah, so
we'll see. We'll definitely see. Chris just asked, going based off fuel again, is there any benefit for bigger fees and return lines for to the tank under 550?
Not really. Not really. Now I will say, if you're running a surge tank and you are, like I said, guys have made 7+, okay, on stock lines, but I really don't recommend it. I'd tell you to go up for the feed and return. I'd tell you to go up on a street car, go up at probably around, 600-ish. Below that, if you're running a track car, it's not so much of a thing with a drag car, but with a track car, and you're running lap after lap, if you're running a surge tank, you may start to heat the fuel up in a smaller line. So running a bigger line may alleviate that a little bit. Just something to note. So what else we got?
Dewey will always complain about 255s.
Oh, always. But then again, like, I get it, you know, and when the whole sequential discussion came up, there was conversation of, should we equalize all the tires, or should we allow you guys sequentials? And my argument was I need a sequential because I keep breaking my trans and this sucks.
I think I was going to say it probably does. The amount of time it takes to shift in a sequential probably negate, or tires are always good. Bigger tires are always good, but
yeah,
that difference in a sequential from a regular H pattern probably makes up just a little bit more time. Than
I don't agree with that. I don't think we're going to gain much time from shift times. I really don't. We are going to gain
No, but you gain consistency.
That's what we're going to gain. We're going to gain me missing a gear. Okay. We're going to gain it not wanting to go in. We're going to gain screwing up a heel toe coming in and upsetting the car. We're going to gain that. Which is a huge gain. Like, that's what we're going to gain out of this. And that's going to be massive. This is something I was thinking about the other day, talking with one of our engineers. He was like, how excited are you that you're going to be able to take your brain off of all of this other stuff and just concentrate on driving instead of having to heel toe correctly and everything else? And I was like, dude, that's actually one of the things that's got me the most excited. But then we started talking about how much more consistent the data is going to be. So me being able to break down a lap time and see where I'm losing time is going to be easier too.
Yep.
And that is huge. That's exciting.
Yep. It's very exciting.
So,
yeah, I think it's going to give you the consistency you need because, like you said, like if you miss-shift a gear, you can lose so much time off of miss-shift.
Yep.
It's going to give you the consistency you need.
I lose a stupid amount of time off of miss-shift.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Man.
So.
All right.
Smitty down there, still undefeated. That's what's up. I love it, man. Seeing if there's anything else. Lower level Mtron. Yes, there is a lower level Mtron coming. There is a lower level Mtron coming, and but if you're looking for something above a G4X, just get a full blast Mtron. Like, stop fucking around. If you can't do it with a G4X, get a full blast Mtron. It's incredible what you can do with an Mtron and how much is sorted out. Like, DCCD is figured out inside of an Mtron. Like, why wouldn't you just do that? Yeah, the Shadow 8's what it's called. I'm kind of peeking through to see what else. There's TDO4. See if anybody else has any. If you got any other questions, folks, say them now, because we're going on a damn near 2-hour episode. Boogey, ready for a sub 30 at Gingerman? That's a great question. I fucking hope so. I want nothing more to be the first. I want to go sub 130 in a street mod car so bad. I want to do it before anybody else. And we narrowly dodged a bullet with Alan Patton not having that being his first time at the track and him not having the weather for it last year. Because he would have fucking done it. So I hope so. I hope so. And I tell you what, one of the things that always kicks my ass with Gingerman is I have to make a couple of fairly odd shifts. They're going to be way easier to make now. So it was really hard to be consistent on Gingerman. Oh, yeah, Alan sounds like he's coming to some Grid Life events, but I think the Supra is gone. We did
yeah, they're in that Corvette.
They're in that Corvette, and he's running track mod with it. He built it. He was going to build that Corvette for street mod. I don't think it would have been nearly as effective in street mod, but I guarantee with Alan at the wheel, it sure as hell wouldn't have been slow.
Yeah, it would have been pretty nutty.
It would have been nasty. Because it ain't like they were going to turn the power down, but he wouldn't have had anywhere near the tire. But him in track mod, oh, dude, he's going to be fucking dumb in track mod. Um, all track mod records are on notice right now. And we're not talking like small amounts either. Like he's probably going to blitz a bunch of Ferris's like track mod records. It's going to be stupid.
He did some pretty insane stuff at Super Lap Battle.
Arthur says that Corvette's probably going to derail Jackie's championship hopes this year for TrackMan. I got to be real. Yeah. It depends on how many he's going to. Jackie's very consistent. He's always going to be, you know, right in the podium hunt. But if Alan's there with that car, I don't see anything. There is not a single build in this country for that class right now that I think has a prayer against it. Stupid.
Zeno, I was about to get to this, but Zeno is asking, did you upgrade your timing belt tensioner? He's asking what level.
At what horsepower level? It's not really a horsepower level. It's what you're using the car for. Okay. So the upgraded timing tensioner that we do, it's more for if you're going to be in situations where when you're going to change RPM quickly a lot. If you're a big time autocrosser and it's even stock turbo, I'd recommend seriously considering it. If you drive rally, I'd consider it. If you're doing time attack or on track a lot, I'd consider it. If you're drag racing and you're worried about, you know, a misshift or something, I'd consider it. Okay. It's for when the timing is going to change quickly. Now, as far as a horsepower level situation to it, the higher the horsepower, the more apt it is. The nice thing about the tensioner is you do get a little more belt wrap on the crank pulley. Okay. So if you do increase horsepower, that means the actual twist of that crank pulley is going to be not only faster, but harder. It's more of a chance you could skip teeth. At what point do I think that starts to become a problem? More so than a lower horsepower? I really couldn't put a number on it, but I would feel much better anybody over 500 wheel being on it, even if they're like street driving or whatever. But if you're track driving, and again, rally, autocross, you know, things that are going to drastically change RPM quickly. Maybe you're doing a little bit of drifting for whatever reason, you know, and you're clutch kicking and shit. Just do it. Just do it. Okay, we got another one. Steph, did you catch Steph's question?
Yeah, so I just read it. They're asking what's the performance difference between a carbon fiber shaft versus OEM?
Sure. You're going to feel that rotating mass. Okay. Let's talk about rotating mass a little bit. So I got to be real. A carbon drive shaft versus a steel one, you might feel it a little bit, but how you actually feel it is a little different. It might actually show up as some small gains on a dyno. You're going to feel it in your lower gears more than you will your higher gears. Okay. And it's because the faster the engine can rev, the faster the engine's revving, the more it will affect that. So the faster the RPMs are changing, the less rotational mass will allow it to do it quicker. But at higher RPM, it's less of a thing. Okay. So how I like to explain lightweight flywheels, this is what it feels like. In your first like 3 gears, it feels like you kicked a fat person out of your car. You really won't feel it in like 4th and up, but 1 through 3, you definitely feel a lightweight flywheel. One thing I will say is I'm not a huge fan of lightweight crank pulleys. And if you've ever noticed this, there's not a single engine manufacturer out there that makes a lightweight pulley. Okay. We don't make them. Tomei, HKS, they don't make lightweight crank pulleys. There's a lot of different reasons for this, but your crank pulley is more than just a pulley. If it was just a pulley, it would look like just a pulley, but they put a lot of rubber and stuff into that as not exactly a harmonic balancer, but it's definitely pulling vibration out. You might gain a little bit of horsepower from a lightweight crank pulley. It's not worth it. It will cause premature bearing wear. Not a huge fan of that. We're bigger fans of either the ATI or fluid damper pulleys. You'll gain almost the same amount of horsepower, but it is much nicer on the bearings. But when it goes to a carbon versus aluminum versus steel one-piece drive shaft, the steel one's going to be the strongest. The aluminum one's actually going to be the weakest. My problem with aluminum drive shafts is they're fairly easy to knock out of balance. And even if it's hard to get them balanced for super high speeds, if you plan on doing anything over 130 mile an hour, just get a carbon one. A carbon one, carbon drive shafts are sick. So they actually have a little bit of flex to them. And due to that flex, not only does it pull a ton of vibration out of your drivetrain, so you're not getting a ton of weird diff whine and shit like that. Your car, a street car that puts a carbon drive shaft in, will actually be quieter. It's like the only upgrade, that the only downside for the most part is cost. Okay. It'll pull some vibration out, but also let's say you're in a drag car, or you're like us, we got a sequential and we're going to be banging through gears and whatever. Because that drive shaft can flex a little bit, it can actually pull out some of like the jarring hit that you'll get into you'll get in your drivetrain. So it won't like instantly shock your diff or gears or stuff like that. It has the ability to pull some of that out. So carbon drive shafts are sick. They're expensive, but they're pretty sick. Dude, what happened to Zeno's car? That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar situation happen to me years ago with Boogey, where in fact, it's that gear, is extended to power my dry sump. It powers the pump. And that bolt snapped. And it took the entire engine with it because we lost oil pressure.
Yep.
Dude, I literally was going into the pits. I was crawling through the pits when it happened. It just made this horrific crunch and I lost the engine that fast. Just got a DSS carbon fiber drive shaft. Dude, you'll love it. It's a good unit. Oh God. Okay. Would you let someone like James Houghton, etc., drive Boogey for reference time? If I did, I'd never let anybody know it. That's all I can say to that. What I can tell you is I did let me and a buddy of mine co-drove Boogey at one event. And while I was dealing with some shit and he wasn't, I was fixing stuff and then he'd go out and run. He ended up beating my time, which was the street mod record for a short period of time. And I had to go to sleep on that until the next morning. It bugged me so fucking bad. I'm telling you, I can't handle it. If somebody beats me in another car, I can deal with it. They can't beat me in my own car because that feels like they outdrove me. So my ego can't really take it. Okay? It just can't. I have a very fragile ego. It is what it is. I talked about the VBWRX, Mary. It was like the first thing I said. It literally was the very
first thing we talked about.
You're going to have to re-listen, Mary.
You just have to re-listen.
Yep. If you want to hear about my thoughts on the VBWRX, you have to re-listen to the podcast and hit the like button. Crazy. And you have to share it too.
But, I think that's a thing. We've been going for quite some time.
I think, we're at 2 hours. So I had a really good time. Yeah. I was expecting this to maybe go an hour, and we went all over the place. And I had a really good time with this. So
we got pretty deep in some spots too. You
you guys learned a whole lot about me that maybe you didn't want to know. Does Boogey have motorsports ABS? No, it's got a BMW E46 MK60 unit in it right now.
All right, stop asking. We got to end it at some point, guys.
We will have another Ask Dewey in, I don't know, like a month or so, because this obviously went really well and we need to do it again. Okay, so we'll do more Ask Deweys. I should have been writing down like topics and stuff, just because I don't even know what I'm going to put in the description, so people can go, what is this one about? Because I just, there's so much in here.
Well, we got general. At least I had written down some questions.
Huge
We can
amount
at
of
least
track
kind
stuff
of
in here,
make
grid
something
life
out of
based
it.
things. So I think we're gonna, this will be a good episode. All right, this was fun. We got to end it. So we will try to do another one of these. You guys had a really good time with this, and I really thank the audience for keeping us alive. And it actually worked out awesome. So it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. And we will see you guys next time